Das ist uns zu wenig, eigentlich.
Ist die Opernfestspiel ist eigentlich Opera Festival, gell?
Wir sind live.
Ja.
Ja,
Geht's?
das Munich Opera Festival, genau.
Und bitte.
We're here with another Facebook Live of BMW Group Cultural Engagement. We're here doing the Opera Festival in Munich, and I can't believe I'm sitting in the 7 Series with the most sought-after singer on this planet, or within the solitary system, I think I can safely say. I mean, you were singing Lohengrin in Paris, you were singing Otello in London this year, and you are here back in Munich, the city that you were born in, with Andrea Chenier this coming Friday. How does it feel to be back in Munich?
It's wonderful. Well, except for the weather, which unfortunately let us down now after so many weeks of fantastic sunshine. But we are safe and sane inside here. No, of course, I'm born in Munich. I grew up here. I got in contact with culture and especially with opera for the first time here. So it's always great to come back, to see my friends, to see whether my house is still there.
And is your house still here?
It is. That I can assure you. For this time, we're safe.
Good. I know you started playing the piano when you were 8 years old. I know that you're also a trained mathematician, but at the same time now when you're here and you're performing on stage, I know that sometimes things are haunting you like a nightmare before performances, or so I hear from other singers. Do you have like one worst nightmare that you want to share with us in terms of what was the worst thing that you ever dreamt of before a performance?
Oh, dreaming before a performance? No, actually, I'm a very bad dreamer. I mean, I remember maybe 1 or 2 dreams per year, and which is actually quite good, I believe, because people tell me that I can sleep. Very impatient, and so it's maybe whatever it is that my body and my brain is working on. It has nothing to do with me, at least consciously. So no, I'm very good with nerves. So I've never had any problems except when I was a starter and I was actually studying here in Munich, and my first concerts that I did there were terrible because I really was shaking all over and I couldn't keep my breath on moving. It was incredible, and I made so many mistakes.
But that wasn't a dream. God. That was actually happening.
That was happening, yes.
Okay.
But then once you've understood how this whole thing works, once you've got enough confidence and enough positive experiences, it's much easier. And to me, as much as I'm passionate with it, I never nervous. I never have difficulties in keeping myself together or in falling asleep a night before an important performance.
Well, I think that's key, that you can sleep very well. The one thing is, I mean, you're at the Scala, you're in Paris, you're in London, you're here in Munich, you're at the Met, obviously. I mean, if no bad things happen on the stage, I would love to know from you, what's the worst thing or maybe the worst sound that you've probably encountered? I know that the audience is sometimes, they sneeze or they cough or something. What has bothered you while you were performing on stage coming from the audience? Do you have any story to tell in regard to that?
Yeah, well, actually, you can tell many stories about it because unfortunately it happens very often at things. I mean, there's a beeping sound or a monitor goes on and off all the time and makes a brum noise or whatever. But it is on stage, it's in the wings, and most of the times the audience doesn't notice it. The one moment I remember best as being, to me, probably the worst, because it was the perfect moment, is many years ago I was performing a cycle called Kerner Lieder from Schumann, and the very last song, that was in Austria, in a festival in Austria, and the very last song is so tender, so soft, and the words I sang at this moment, can you hear the birds singing? And at this moment, you can hear the cell phone starting to ring, but very loud in the audience, in the silence.
What is it? Was it a chirping sound at least?
No, exactly.
Was it some bird, some ornithologist?
No. But it was the problem was, I mean, people sometimes believe, well, if I don't react, it will get over.
Oh, that's like little
children. And so this lady, she just didn't do anything. She was just sitting there, and it rang and rang and rang, and stopped, and it rang again, and she started looking in her handbag and everything, and oh God, it was, and of course the whole atmosphere is gone. It's destroyed. I mean, it happens often, unfortunately, that something happens. I mean, sometimes even terrible things that people are in health difficulties because it's very warm sometimes in the audience and all that, and also there people are impatient. I remember just here next door is the Herkulessaal, where I performed a lead recital also maybe 15 years ago, and someone really had a heart attack up on the balcony, and so the first aid came in and they tried to carry him out, and
you stopped the performance.
No, I didn't, because the people in the stalls didn't see it. I saw it. I watched it, and then suddenly it was getting too noisy. And people said, "Will you please shut up? What's going on up there?" And I said, "Please, calm down.
Someone's
in terrible difficulties."
You said that from the stage.
I had to say it from stage, and it's quite embarrassing. I have to say that people are rude than
coming from those ordeals on the stage and off the stage. How do you actually make the younger generation love opera? You know, obviously there's a lot of drama going on according to the stories we just heard. But how do you make little kids fall in love with the opera so that they continue to go?
Well, little kids is very difficult. I mean, there are some obvious things people always say. You have to listen to Magic Flute. It's maybe one of the first operas. The music is great, and it's maybe a good idea. It's not written for children specifically. For instance, for my children, that fairy tale stories obviously are something important and interesting for children. And Wagner's operas, at least most of them, are based on fairy tales. And I remember my kids being extremely fascinating when they heard the Rheingold, which is about 2.5 hours without intermission. But they loved it. They really loved it, because it's a story that we adults maybe say, well, yeah, okay, interesting, great music, but for kids it's great. The most important thing, I mean, there's of course no general recipe, because if there would, I mean, we would all try and do it that way. Let the children be somehow exposed to that media, to classical music in general, because classical music is something that rings aside of your emotions that you're sometimes even not aware of. But be careful, because other than grown-ups that have this protection shield, that if something is really too moving, that touches them too much, you just, as in the movies, you think, well, it's only a fake. I mean, it's not real blood, and the whole thrill is gone. It's the same in an opera. I mean, when people get killed and so on. But for children, they have no self-protection. For them, everything is real, and even they start crying when they hear sad music, because they're influenced by it. So be aware that you have to be with them. You have to tell them this and help them. But if they just listen to it a little bit, it is something so fascinating that I'm sure they will come back to it once they have the time, they have the money, they have the education to do it.
I think that's a good move. I mean, generally it's the willing suspension of disbelief. When you go to the movies, you go to the opera, but a child might not be able, as you say, to differentiate. I want to get into that, talking about you again, in terms of, you know, there's of course opera characters that you play, that you perform, that you sing. At the same time, you know they're not real, but then they are in a way. Has there been an opera character that has haunted you in real life? You know, something that you have performed on stage where you think, oh wow, this is now actually getting to me in real life.
Not really. I mean, it is the stories are so extreme and so tragic in most cases that it is very, very difficult to think of something would happen in real life similar to that. But what is true is that wherever I go, whatever I do, when I sit in a cafe or in a bus or on a train or whatever, waiting at the airport, I'm always watching people carefully. I'm always trying to see some new creations that I can use on stage, some habits, some tics, some yeah. I mean, because it's very important to always find new variations.
I'm sure it's gotten
And
harder
it's-
for you though to watch people because they're all watching
watch
you,
me.
Jonas Kaufmann.
Yeah.
You can be in Paris, you can be in New York, you can be here, and people know who you are. So I'm sure that it has gotten harder for you, to watch people yourself. By the way, some of these questions that I'm asking you are coming from, the fans of the Opera of Munich, because they have been asking, what are you going to ask Jonas Kaufmann? And so that we got almost 100 questions. I can only throw a few at you, and maybe one last one before we get to the end of this. And I have a very special request. I don't know what you're going to say, but nevertheless, I'm trying. You said yourself at one point, and I think it fits to what we discussed before, that opera is also about playing and singing on the edge. I mean, do you mean with the edge, do you mean the edge of the stage before you fall into the orchestra? Or what else do you, I mean, tell me what the edge is for you.
Fortunately not. No, I mean, we referred to that type of singer that always is glued to the last centimeters of the stage towards the orchestra pit. We would always call them an Rampensau, whatever that is in English.
Let's not translate that
Yeah,
one.
no, that's not really what I'm looking for. No, the thing is, you see, Herbert von Karajan once said, we're all seeking for the controlled ecstasy, which is obviously a contradiction. It doesn't work, but somehow we have to find a way that I can convince the audience and I convince myself that I am actually this other person that witnesses what's going on there, that these are my words, my feelings, that I'm the one that suffers or that enjoys or whatever it is, and it is fascinating because you can do it better and better over the years, and you really fall for that illusion. And the more you do it, the easier you can get into these characters. You can throw yourself into this situation, and the more the emotions can be transported to the audience. The audience really believes this moment. I mean, people start crying in a performance not because someone sings so badly, but because they really suffer with the characters on stage and with the situation. Of course, the orchestra helps. It lays out a great carpet of emotions on which we can walk easier than an actor can do when he has to create everything on its own. But nevertheless, we can never. I believe I never want to fake. I never want to just play someone, meaning I just pretend to be it, and with the music I will get away with it. This is something I hate, so that's why I'm saying I'm always trying to find that edge, that moment where I fall, meaning I lose myself into this character, and I'm maybe if you play someone as violent as Othello, of course there has to be a safety line somewhere inside that make you not kill the soprano for real. But it has to be so passionate that people really believe in that moment. Oh my goodness, he's going for it for real. And this is what you want to achieve. So I am exhausted. It takes me a long time to get back to normal from such a demanding violent scene like the last scene in Othello. But of course I still find my way back. But this is what we're playing with, on the edge of losing control.
Talking about demanding, and I know that coming Friday you will be beheaded. I mean, we'll see your head for Andreas Genie at the very end, dangling
absolutely.
around. So, I mean, you're into some experiences here, and I'm happy you talk about not faking it. And, BMW has been partnering with the opera for 20 years, and now we're sitting in that 7 Series, which you yourself drive. But the one thing that I wanted to say is, can we turn this into the smallest opera house on the planet just for the next 30 seconds?
I do it all the time.
I mean,
it has the perfect stereo
while you're
here,
driving,
and I'm listening to all great music. And
but
I just talked to the guy who did my most of my recordings, my albums, and I said, I was just listening to it in the car, and he said, forget it. I could never listen to classical music properly in a car. And I said, well, the thing is, you probably have the wrong car.
This is a good system.
Because this is a great car to listen great music.
But now it's not about you listening to music, but it's rather about us listening to music, because the question would be whether there's anything that you can share with us, which people will hear during the Opera Festival this Friday here in Munich?
So it has to be a soft part. Let me think, because if I really hit a high note, I mean, therefore, even the biggest limousine wouldn't be big enough to cope with it. Andrea Chenier, this coming Friday behind us, aria from the last act, a beautiful aria masterpiece, starts about come un bel dì di maggio che con bacio di vento e carezza di raggio si spegne in firmamento. More to follow next Friday.
Oh, this is beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you for making our day.
Oh,
Thank you,
you're most
Jonas
welcome.
Kaufmann. Thank you.
Yeah, great pleasure. Thanks.